I wonder how busy you are, what takes up your time, what you do when you have nothing else to do. Many of us rush from one thing to the next. We fill our diaries with stuff, making sure we have just enough time to finish a sandwich as we go from our morning meeting to our afternoon meeting or appointment. So when we do have time, when we don't have anywhere else to be, our time, it becomes precious. That's when I watch my show on TV, when I watch Strictly, or when I read a book. That's the time I turn my PlayStation on, or I get some exercise, or I scroll through social media. Even our downtime becomes busy. We fill it with stuff. And I don't know about you, but the frustration which wells up in me when I'm frustrated, when I'm interrupted. I have to be off. I need to get to the next thing. Or I'm trying to relax and I do not want to be disturbed. In our service last Sunday, Phil Dixon was talking about returning to the ancient ways, returning to the way of Jesus. And he quoted a pastor called John Mark Comer, who said that discipleship is about being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus and doing what Jesus did. None of those things, I think, involve rushing from thing to thing to thing. Being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus, doing what Jesus did. I love this definition. And it's a real challenge to me and how busy my life is. About how busy church life sometimes is. Jesus got lots done. He did have a pretty full schedule. But there were some things he was never too busy for. He took time out regularly to spend with God. But also, he took time for interruptions. A great example comes in Matthew 9. Jesus is on the way to the house of an important man, a synagogue leader, because that man's daughter has died, and Jesus is going to go and heal her. He is going to go and bring her back from the dead. Her life has ended too soon. But on the way to this important man's house, Jesus is interrupted. He's interrupted by a woman who has been bleeding for many, many years, a woman who is unclean, who is not welcome among the well-to-do because she might make them unclean too. And she reaches out and she touches his cloak and he stops. At that interruption, he stops and he talks to her, this outcast, this unclean woman. And he engages her in conversation. He calls her daughter and he heals her. And this is far from the only time that Jesus is interrupted on his way somewhere else. Far from the only time that Jesus stops what he has been doing in order to spend time with others. Beggars call out to him from the side of the road as he's on his way somewhere else. And he ministers to them. Crowds follow him from place to place and he takes pity on them and teaches them when he is trying to get to somewhere else, to be somewhere else, to do something else. I think we can be so busy sometimes, not just as individuals, but as a church, busy doing stuff, that we never allow any sort of interruption to stop us. We roll from one activity to the next without ever slowing down. Without allowing God space to show us who he wants us to engage with, to draw us close to him, to show us the new thing that he's doing. The pandemic gave us a great opportunity to do this, I think, an interruption that made us stop and slow down. And many of us found that during that time we had a renewed relationship with God, where we were forced to slow down. But the danger is, as things have begun to open up again, we have just rolled back into all the things we used to do before. We're chomping at the bit to start all the things we did before. What if God doesn't want us, doesn't want our church to be as busy doing stuff all the time? What if he wants us to take a bit more time just to be in his presence? In the same way Jesus often took himself off to spend time with Father God. What if he wants us to carve out Sabbath time Time to rest with him that isn't full of activity. What if he wants us to slow down the pace of what we do so that we have time to build relationships with him, with each other, and with those that he will put in our paths? And hey, maybe none of this is you. Maybe you've got lots of time on your hands and would love to have more to do. And I wonder how you might fruitfully use the time which you do have. How you might spend even more time being with Jesus, being like Jesus, doing what Jesus did. Who you might minister to with a phone call. Who you might share the love of God with simply by deliberately being part of their lives. Who God might be standing in your way to interrupt you. I wonder where God might lead all of us if we slow down a little. I wonder who we might meet. I wonder what conversations we might have with our neighbours, with those who we normally pass by as we rush from thing to thing to thing, from job to job. I wonder what we might learn about our brothers and sisters in the church and how we might love each other better if we take time just to be. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth." And we read that sometimes as we meet together and we think, okay, this time when we're here together for an hour or so, we'll be still. And then we start rushing again. But God is God the whole week round. He will be exalted, whether we are rushing from thing to thing or not. He doesn't need us to be rushing round in order to be glorified. Being still and knowing, slowing down, spending time with him and the people he puts in our path is part of the discipline of being a disciple.